Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Bharjana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Bharjana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Jayadvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Padmam Saparivajaya Astadara Shila Srimati His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namajaya Srila Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Thakurara Shri Gaura Bhaktavinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Hari Naam Sankirtan Ki Jai Bhukti Shrishan Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
Glasses. Verse number? Huh?
29, text 29.
Reading verse 29. We're reading from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, entitled Dhyana Yoga, text number 29. Sarva Bhuta Stam Atmanam, Sarva Bhutani Chatmani, Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma, Sarvatra Sama Darshina. Translation. A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees everything in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the Supreme Lord, everywhere. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. A Krishna-conscious yogi is the perfect seer because he sees Krishna, the Supreme, situated in everyone's heart as Supersoul, Paramatma. Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Ridesh Arjuna Tishtati. The Lord, in His Paramatma feature, is situated within both the heart of the dog and that of a Brahmana. The perfect yogi knows that the Lord is eternally transcendental and is not materially affected by His presence in either a dog or a Brahmana. That is the supreme neutrality of the Lord. The individual soul is also situated in the individual heart, but He is not present in all hearts. That is the distinction between the individual soul and the supersoul. One who is not factually in the practice of yoga cannot see so clearly. A Krishna-conscious person can see Krishna in the heart of both the believer and the non-believer. In the Smriti, Sattvata Tantra 3.49, this is confirmed as follows. Atavakcha Machavad Atma Hi Paramo Hari. The Lord, being the source of all beings, is like and the maintainer. As the mother is neutral to all different kinds of children, the Supreme Father or Mother is also. Consequently, the supersoul is always in every living being. Outwardly, also, every living being is situated in the energy of the Lord. As will be explained in the 7th chapter, the Lord has primarily two energies, the spiritual, or superior, and the material, or inferior. The living entity, although part of the superior energy, is conditioned by the inferior energy. The living entity is always in the Lord's energy. Every living entity is situated in him in one way or another. The yogi sees equally because he sees that all living entities, although in different situations, according to the results of fruitive work, in all circumstances remain the servants of God. While in the material energy, the living entity serves the material senses, and while in the spiritual energy, he serves the Supreme Lord directly. In either case, the living entity is the servant of God. This vision of equality is perfect in a person in Krishna consciousness.
That's what I was trying to avoid. Om Jnana Timidantasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurn Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kodamahyam Dadati Shapadantikam Sarvabhutas Tamatmanam Sarvabhutani Chatmani Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma Sarvatra Samadarshanaha. This is the vision of a person who's Yoga Yuktatma, who's Krishna conscious, connected with Krishna in pure devotional service. He's Sarvabhutas Tamatmanam Sarvabhutani Chatmani. Pardon me one moment. He sees all living beings within Krishna. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Krishna is everything. There's nothing existing other than Krishna. So everything is situated within Krishna or within Krishna's energy. As Vayu Sarvatrago Mahan Tata Sarvani Bhutani Vatstani Tu Pradharya. Elsewhere, Krishna says that as the wind is blowing within the sky, so everything is existing within Krishna. Whatever the weather, the sky doesn't change. Our vision, a little portion of the sky may seem this way or that way, but the totality of the vast sky is in fact unaffected by the little things going on with the wind. So Krishna is unaffected by whatever's going on in the material world. He's beyond the qualities of material existence. And everything is within him. Everything and every living being is within Krishna. We may be within the temple room, we may be within an office or a home, but actually we're within Krishna. And Krishna is also within us. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hridaya sarjanatishtati. Within the heart of every living being Krishna is present. Krishna is therefore known as Jananivas. Jananivas Prabhu ki jai. Krishna is known as Jananivas. He's the residence of all living beings, and he resides within all living beings. Nivas means residence, and Jana means person or living being. So Krishna resides within all living beings, and all living beings reside within Krishna. That means Krishna's wonderful. He's wonderful that both these, you can say, contradictory qualities are within him. Everything resides within him, and he resides within everyone and everything. This is Krishna. So, Sarvabhuta Stamatmanam Sarvabhutani Chatmani. Ikshate. Ikshate means he sees. Who sees? The Krishna conscious person. He sees this factually. He sees that Krishna is everywhere. That's called Krishna consciousness. He sees Krishna everywhere. Prabhupada gives an example. A businessman sees money everywhere. Wherever he goes, he sees a business opportunity. Or even if he meets you, he checks you out, he figures out how much your shoes are worth, how much you pay for that jacket. So he sees money everywhere. Or a lusty man, he sees sex everywhere, because that's his mentality. The businessman is always thinking of money, so he sees money everywhere. The lusty man is always thinking of sex, he sees sex everywhere. And the Krishna conscious person is always seeing Krishna, always thinking of Krishna, so he sees Krishna everywhere. Yes, if you would put your phone on silent mode, please. So this is Krishna consciousness. And it's factual. We're thinking of sex, and we're seeing it even where it isn't. We're seeing money everywhere, even if it's not there. But Krishna is factually everywhere. Whatever we think of otherwise is temporarily there, perhaps, at the most. And it's, first of all, not what we think it is, and second of all, it's not permanently there. What we think of as being enjoyable, what we think of as being miserable, is temporary. But the mind makes it miserable or enjoyable. And even if we think, and whatever we think it is, it's not going to be around all that long. It's absolute. In the summer, now cool water will be very nice. But in the winter, the same cool water will be biting. So the value of the cold water is relative. It depends on the circumstances. But Krishna has absolute value. So wherever Krishna is, all good fortune is there. Tatra shir vijayo bhutir juvanitir matir mua. All victory, all everything. The Krishna's, what is that? Suridam sarvabhutana. He's the best friend of all living beings. And Krishna sees, the Krishna conscious person sees that best friend everywhere around him. Therefore, he has no anxiety. Tatrako mahakashoka ekatam manupashata. This is the divine vision, or the vision of the Krishna conscious person. Ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshana. elsewhere. Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavihashtini shuni chaiva chapake pandita samadarshana. The Krishna conscious person has equal vision. He doesn't see higher and lower. He sees everyone as spirit soul. Brahmane gavihashtini. A high-class Brahmin, a cow, an elephant, a dog eater. They're all the same, because although circumstantially they have different bodies, different circumstances, and different natures, those bodies and natures and circumstances are superfluous, superficial. As soul, everyone is equal. We're seeing in modern society, we see a clumsy attempt, or multiple clumsy attempts for equality. We want women to be equal to men. We want high-class people and low-class people to be equal. We want, you name it, we want it equal. Égalité, equality. But where are we looking for the equality? On the material platform. We want everyone, regardless of their body, to be seen as equal. But we see everyone as the body. And somehow we want the bodies to be of equal value when they're obviously not. Iron and gold are not of equal value. Diamonds and plastic jewelry are not of equal value. But somehow or other, every person is supposed to be of equal standing, which is just stupid in the extreme when seen on the material platform, because materially, everyone's different. Otherwise, I could have been a heavyweight wrestler. Why Muhammad Ali and not me? We're not equal. The bodies are different. Albert Einstein and the fool are not on the same level, materially. So we want to have material equality, and it's just the stupidest idea in the world, because there's no such thing. But the equality, and yet everyone is seeking equality. The equality is there. Of course, they're seeking partial equality. They want equality for blacks and whites, or they want equality for the sexes, or they want equality for different nations. But they don't want equality for the animals. All human beings should be treated equally, and the animals will exploit. Where's the equality? And even if we think, no, even the animals should be treated justly, we don't see spiritually. That's where the equality is. The person who's a dog in this life could be a professor in the next life, and vice versa. The soul is the same, regardless of the outward covering. The coverings are different. The coverings are different. When they tried to make a classless society in the Soviet Union, they still had professors and because people are not equal. materially. But here, Sarvatra Samadarshana, the person with spiritual vision sees all living beings equally because they're equal. They're all of the same spiritual nature. They're all of the same spiritual quality. That's where the equality is. And beyond that, they all share in the transcendental nature of Krishna. Krishna is the supreme consciousness, and the living beings are tiny sparks of that supreme consciousness. So all the sparks are equal in nature. They share in the transcendental qualities of Krishna. And now we're more distracted by the outward coverings, and so we don't see the spiritual nature of all beings, and we don't see our own spiritual nature. We don't see our own spiritual nature, and so we try to make progress materially. We try to get in touch with our inner selves, which we conceive of as being our minds, our emotions, which are the subtle coverings of ourself. And we don't come to the platform of the real self. So, by this chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, one comes directly to the platform of spirit, directly to the transcendental platform. And so he can realize his own spiritual nature, and he can realize the spiritual nature of all living beings. And he sees Drakshasyatmanyato Mahi. He sees that all living beings are within Krishna. And because the Krishna conscious person has love for Krishna, he naturally loves all living beings. The living beings are parts of Krishna. And so when one loves Krishna, automatically one loves all living beings. If we try to love all living beings separately, it doesn't work. We can't even think of all living beings. Can't even think of all the living beings in New York City, or Brooklyn, or this block, or this room. You have to take account of all the microbes and the little bugs. Can't even think of them. What to speak of loving them. So we have this, sometimes we talk about universal love, but it's universal baloney. It's not real. Real love means Krishna we can think of. I can't think of all living beings, but we can think of Krishna. How to think of Krishna? Chant Hare Krishna. This chanting of Hare Krishna and thinking of Krishna are equal. And we can think of Krishna's words, his instructions as given in Bhagavad Gita, or the descriptions of Krishna given in Srimad Bhagavatam and other such books. So it's a culture, a cultivation. We can think of Krishna or we can think of Maya. Maya means the energy of illusion. The energy of illusion is also Krishna. It's also Krishna because it's also part of Krishna. But it's the part of Krishna that keeps us bewildered. So when we forget Krishna, we become bewildered. And then we have so many difficulties. But when we remember Krishna, everything becomes easy. So many problems are solved at once by this simple method, thinking of Krishna and seeing everything in relationship to Krishna. When we see things in relationship to Krishna, we see them as they are. And when we see them otherwise, we see them as they're not. So this is a cultivation. And how do we cultivate Krishna consciousness? Srila Rupa Goswami tells us that it's a process of surrender or sharanagati. Surrender is one translation, or it means taking shelter. Sharana means shelter, and gati, the destination where we go to take shelter. So, how do we take shelter of Krishna? It's not by sentiment only. That, now I take shelter of Krishna, and some emotional fervor of the moment, and then it fades after half an hour. But it's practical cultivation. Srila Rupa Goswami explains, Anukulyasya sankalpa. What is the first item of sharanagati? Taking shelter, surrender. Anukulyasya sankalpa. To accept everything favorable for Krishna consciousness. Some things are favorable, some things are not favorable. This chanting Hare Krishna is so favorable for Krishna consciousness. Seeing the form of Radha Govinda, or rendering service to the transcendental form of Radha Krishna, is favorable. Associating with devotees of Krishna is favorable for Krishna consciousness. When we mix with devotees, naturally we'll think of Krishna, talk about Krishna, and do something for Krishna. So, when we hear from books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, that's so favorable. Therefore, we're publishing so many books so that not only you can keep them in your house, but you can read them. When we read these books, Krishna's presence becomes manifest. That's a fact. Even if we read only a few pages a day, even one page a day, and we're in the presence of Krishna. You can read by yourself, you can read with your family. This is the right engagement for family life. Sit with your family and just read a page. Any of these Krishna conscious books, Krishna book, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita as it is, and Krishna will be present with you. So the things that are favorable for Krishna consciousness, there are many others, many other favorable things. And by accepting them, we make advancement in Krishna consciousness. Anukulyasya sankalpa and pratikulyasya varjanam. And similarly, we make progress by giving up things that are not going to help us in Krishna consciousness, by rejecting them. Especially there are 4 things to be rejected because they're the pillars of Kali Yuga, the age of degradation and quarrel. Those 4 things are gambling, intoxicants, including coffee, tea, cigarettes, meat eating meat, fish, or eggs, uh, and illicit sex, unrestricted sex, not for the service of Krishna, but for the service of our senses. That's also most unfavorable. Well, I haven't asked them lately. There's so many things that are unfavorable, but mushrooms are mildly unfavorable. Meat, fish, and eggs are grossly unfavorable. Yes? I can't hear you.
From Google. I don't know if this is true or not. I don't know.
I don't know what this has to do with anything, but it certainly doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about. Thank you. So there are 4 things that are unfavorable, and by giving them up, one makes great progress in spiritual life or Krishna consciousness. Yesham tvantagatam papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvandvamoha nirmukta bhajante mam drita brita. If one gives up these unwanted activities, one can be freed from duality and illusion, and then make progress in the service of Krishna. Otherwise, if we want to hold on to these habits that are supposed to be a source of enjoyment, we'll wind up suffering, and our spiritual progress will be slow. So, anukulyasya sankalpa. Yeah, phones that aren't in silent mode are unfavorable. So, this temple is here so that we can have a place for our cell phones to ring. It's here so that we can cultivate Krishna consciousness favorably. It's in the association of devotees, it becomes easy. And these practices also you can take home with you. We don't charge anything for this month, for anything that has to, that's needed for Krishna consciousness. So take it serious, and that will make your life something very different from the life of the ordinary person lacking in Krishna consciousness, who's only seeing everything separate from Krishna and not seeing Krishna everywhere. I'm going to stop and leave some time for questions. Before I do, I'd first like to show you this book. It's just come out. This is the 2023 Srila Prabhupada Tributes book. This is a book published every year, which consists of offerings by Srila Prabhupada's direct disciples for the occasion of his Vyas Puja or his appearance day. This is a tradition in Krishna consciousness for the disciples to write offerings glorifying the spiritual master. So the book is now published and it's available online. You can download it for free from sptributes.org. tributes.com. And by reading the book between now and Srila Prabhupada's appearance day, you can attune your mind to that occasion. Now, do we stop at 7:30 or 7:45? 45, that's what I thought I heard. All right, so we can take some questions, if you have questions you'd like to ask. Now, what was your question about Kalki? You showed me on your phone that Vishnu Purana says something about Kalki. Yes, Kalki is real. There's a list of different avatars of Lord Krishna, and Kalki is one of them. He appears at the end of Kali Yuga. That means how many thousands of years from now? About 500,000? 470,000? 427,000 years from now. Because Kali Yuga is the age of degradation. By the end of Kali Yuga, people will be so gross, they'll be no better than animals. Literally, no better than animals. Now, human beings are still somewhat human. And therefore, we can take advantage of books like Bhagavad Gita as it is, Srimad Bhagavatam. We can chant Hare Krishna, we can cultivate spiritual life. This is the opportunity. And especially while this Hare Krishna movement is going on, we manage. But at the end of but we see that people get more and more degraded as time goes by. Even for me, now I'm a little old, 73. So the kind of degradation that is common today, much of it was just beyond imagination when I was young. Now it's standard. All right, we'll stop now and wait for the important phone call to be completed. What is that? Yeah, that's great. I guess I don't see Krishna everywhere. I see cell phones getting in the way. So, at the end of Kali Yuga, people will be so degraded that there's no preaching, there's nothing to be said to them. So Krishna comes as Kalki and just wipes them out, kills them. And by being killed by the Kalki avatar, they get liberation. Okay. Surprisingly, when I was in South India some years ago, on one trip to South India, I found that people were wearing little medallions with a picture of the supposed Kalki avatar who'd appeared in Tamil Nadu or someplace like that. And they were worshipping by, I don't know what. People... No, don't keep him here with your hand over his mouth. Just take him outside where children are supposed to be now. We see the spiritual equality of all living beings, but children are not equal to adults in many respects, materially. So apparently no one had told these people that the Kalki avatar wasn't supposed to appear for another 427,000 years. So they were early. And no one had told them that according to the Bhagavatam, he appears on a white horse and with a sword. Instead, their Kalki avatar had appeared with his wife. That was that.
No horse?
No horse, no sword, just the wife. You had a question?
Yeah. Maharaj, what's the difference between the equal vision that Vaishnavas have and the equal vision that impersonalists have?
What's the difference between the equal vision that Vaishnava devotees have and the equal vision of the impersonalists? The impersonalists also see that everyone is a spiritual being, so they have equal vision, you can say, to the extent that they can maintain that realization, but they don't see Krishna. So they're missing the point. They're missing the point. They see spirit everywhere, but they don't see the presence of the individual living beings and the supreme living being. Just as the materialists want to make everything absolutely equal materially, the impersonalists want to make everything absolutely equal spiritually. So they want equality between themselves and God, which is not feasible, which is the last snare of illusion. So real equality comes not when we wipe out individuality, which is one way to try to get equality, but when we acknowledge that we're one in quality with Krishna, but that Krishna is great and we're small. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Oh, I didn't tell people they can get my book if they like. Well, they can. Is that why you came?